passes. Okay. Moving on to 6B is a special use permit, number PSP 14-035. This is Longbow LLC. Categorical exemption and special use permit to allow 10 additional oil wells being drilled in an established oil field near Deer Creek field on a approximately 10-acre portion of a 120-acre site on an AE10 exclusively ag zone. The site is located in the vicinity of the intersection of Road 238 and Avenue 112 north of Terabella. And Dana is our contact. Dana?
Good morning, Chairman.
Good morning. Go ahead.
Nurse. As mentioned, this is a special use permit to add 10 oil wells to be drilled in an existing oil field. This is a categorical exemption consistent with the California Environmental Quality Act and the state secret guidelines for the implementation of the California Environmental Quality Act, pursuant to Title 14 of California Code Regulations, Section 15303, Class 3, pertaining to new construction or conversion of small structures. This project is compatible with this exemption because the wells will be drilled within an established oil field. Entitlement for this project is found in Section 16.2b of Ordinance 352, which allows mining or extraction of metals, minerals, oil, gas, and hydrocarbons, together with the necessary buildings, apparatus, and appurtenances incidental thereto, in the AE10 zone, subject to the approval of a special use permit. The project is located in the Rural Valley Lands Plan, land use element of the general plan, and the land use designation is Valley Agriculture. The project was found to be consistent with these applicable Tulare County General Plan policies. The project is located in the vicinity, as mentioned earlier, of the intersection of Road 238, which is Main Street, and Avenue 112, and it is north of Terabella. The zoning is AE10, and as mentioned, contains an existing oil field. The surrounding properties are all zoned AE10, and they contain agriculture and scattered rural residences. This is the site plan. Longbow's, who is the applicant, 120-acre leasehold contains 3 oil processing facilities and 38 active oil wells. The drill sites will be located in the vicinity of Terabella, north of Terabella. The wells will be drilled as infill development. As you can see by the site plan, the new wells are those red dots. They will recover additional oil from the Santa Margarita oil formation that lies from 600 to 1,000 feet below the surface. All of the wells will be drilled within the administrative boundaries of Deer Creek, which has produced oil for over 70 years. The 10-well project will be conducted in 2 phases over a 2-year period, with approximately 5 wells drilled per year. And the oil production from these wells will be handled by Longbow's existing facilities, and there will be no need for any additional tanks to be constructed. This is the aerial. The hours of operation will be 24 hours a day, 365 a year. There are 2 existing contract pumpers who visit the site on a daily basis and are on call. The proposal will not require any additional employees. There will not be any dedicated parking on the project site, but there is sufficient area for construction and maintenance vehicles to park within the 120-acre site. Existing access to the project is from Road 238 and Avenue 112. And the project was noticed according to the law, and staff has received 1 inquiry from the Porterville Recorder, a journalist inquiring about the project. And staff's recommendation is to approve the categorical exemption consistent with CEQA and conditional use permit, special use permit number PSP 14-035. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any questions for Dana? Okay. I will open the public testimony portion of the hearing. Is the applicant or the agent here today? Please come forward and give us your name and address.
Good morning. I'm Brad Califf, 1701 West Wind, Bakersfield, California. It's my address, and operate Longbow LLC and also an owner in the property.
You are the agent, is that right?
That's correct.
I do have a couple of questions, and I hope you can answer them because they're kind of technical in the way of drilling. Do you know basically how many active wells are on this well field at this point in time?
Yeah, we have 38 producing oil wells.
Often, I'm sure. I understand you're between 600 and 1,000 feet deep. Is that?
That's correct.
Is that where the oil field or the deposits are?
Yes.
Okay. Do you hit water in those?
The wells will make water with the oil.
Right.
And it's basically fairly fresh water. It's got a boron issue. That's why we have to re-inject it back where it came from. There used to be open sumps out here when we bought it, but
right. The
regional water board has had us close all those.
Okay, so this water is returned back to the.
Yeah, there's 4 disposal wells out here. So basically, we skim the oil out of what we produce, and then the water goes right back down to where it came from.
Okay, well, that was going to be my issue because I know it generates a lot of water, and with the conditions we are in our drought, wanted to make sure there was some, if it wasn't returned, at least some beneficial use of this water.
I'd be happy to give it to anybody that wants it. I mean, it costs me money to pump it back down hole. If you pump it into a pipeline, you just would have to clean up the boron.
Be careful what you say there. You might have a lot of people on your front door.
We make 6,000 barrels a day. 40. That's 24,000 gallons. I mean, it's.
See the water.
It's not really salty. It's very fresh. It meets the fresh water. It's just got a boron of about 1.2, and the regional water board doesn't let you discharge anything under a 1.1 or. Yeah, over a 1.1, so right. I don't know what it would take to clean the boron up.
Well, a pistachio grower would probably like it. But, okay, well, that basically those are my questions for the deal. Anybody else have anything?
I got one for staff.
John, you have one for staff?
Yeah, I just was wondering, it said you notified the Archaeological Clearinghouse. Did they respond?
I did not receive any comments from them.
Well, again, it's the kind of thing where it seems like there should have been some sort of survey or at least a site history done of this project since it's been in use for a long time. So I'm just wondering, on a project that involves this many acres and disturbance to the ground in an area that's somewhat sensitive in terms of Deer Creek, why we haven't done anything like that. So maybe we can refer that to these guys over here.
So I have a question. This comes up almost every time. If they contact the clearinghouse, shouldn't the clearinghouse, if there's a concern, at least answer or?
They should, but what happens in the clearinghouse is a lot of times it's staffed by students that are working with the paid faculty person. So if the letter shows up when like school's not in or something like that, it just sits. And so, I mean, that shouldn't necessarily put the responsibility on us, but we should be encouraging surveys to be done on parcels of this size without the clearinghouse having to tell us. I mean, that's a place where you check to see what sites are done, but a project like this, especially that has sensitive geology in it, this needs a walkover survey by somebody that knows what they're looking at out there. I'm not sure. Maybe it was done previously by, when they put in other wells. But I know this is done in other areas of the state, and I'm wondering why it's not done in Tulare County. If we're going to wait for the clearinghouse to tell us, they will sometimes, and others they won't. We need a policy of our own, that's generated locally. But we kind of talked about Friday when I was up in Sonora, too.
Okay, well, let's move on with this issue here. Anything else? Any other questions, sir, for Brad? No? Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody else like to comment on this, either for or against? Come forward, please. Name and address, please.
Heather Johnson. My address is 10905 Orange Belt Drive. just south of the site, and I just had a couple questions, if I may address the committee. We are on a well. How will this affect the surrounding properties with wells on their properties?
I don't know that anybody's going to have the authority or knowledge to tell you. Maybe the agent would come back. Brad, could you come back?
I was just concerned. I just brought the property, and we have a well on the property, and we're close to this site. We're just south of it, and I wanted to know if this would affect the wells on our properties.
South of Deer Creek, is that where
Just south of,
Mr.
I believe we're in site number 21.
Just stand to the
on
microphone
map.
there. So we're taping this, and we need to have everybody.
I believe our property is right below the 21. It's that 8-acre parcel right there.
Below the 21. Okay.
We're right in between 65 and
And
12.
you have a water well on that property?
Yes, sir.
We won't affect your water well.
Okay. The water table, when you drill, it doesn't.
Yeah, we run, we drill the hole and then we run casing in the hole. So it's 7-inch steel casing down to the top of the oil zone. And then we cement the backside all the way to the surface. So any fresh water that's out here doesn't get affected. We have it totally isolated.
Okay. And then
the Department of Oil and Gas requires us to do that and prove that we have it isolated, and they monitor that.
Okay. And then the water you return back will go back to the water table?
It goes right back down into the oil zone.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your questions, then?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. Anybody else like to make comments on this? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public testimony portion. Move it back to staff for recommendations. So we have the recommendations up before us.
It seems to me, I can understand today we did a lot of categorical exemptions. An oil well with an oil development area with 120 acres, I can't see how that can not at least take us to some kind of mitigated situation and not just be a categorical exemption. I don't think this is the appropriate document to go with a project like this. And at the very least, I would want to see in here, which we talked a little bit about on the last one, some kind of site history, what was used. Have we done any kind of environmental analysis of what oil wells do?
If, Mr. Chairman, the analytical approach with regard to categorical exemptions and mitigated negative declarations, and this is the astute innovation, if the project is designed in such a way that there are no significant environmental effects, there is absolutely no necessity to do a mitigated negative declaration. That may be the default everywhere, but not here, because we are very astute in the way we design and require the project to be carried out through the conditions of approval. Therefore, it's not necessary to do needless, expensive, and lengthy environmental review. Now, it's debatable whether you think environmental review should be done, but not based upon our analysis of the case as well as staff report, which documents all the information. Now, your point is reasonably well taken with regard to the archaeological. So what I'm going to say is that with regard to every project in the staff report, there's got to be some sort of addressment of the archaeological issue. Not that we're going to do a survey and so forth, but we're going to evaluate the conditions, see if we get any responses from the archaeological organization, and make a recommendation. Now, with regard to EIRs that we're doing archaeological studies, full-blown studies. So our approach, in order to crank out these cases at an accelerated rate, is to do CAT exempts and EIRs, not to do needless, wasteful, expensive, and lengthy negative declarations, because that has been just a default position which had no justification.
Well, that's all well and good, but I don't know how we can, assess environmental impacts if we've never surveyed that place. How do we know there are any or not? I mean, we're just, what are we're basing that on you all looking at the evidence you have. That's good. But it's not enough evidence, I don't believe.
Okay, that's debatable. I'm just wondering if the applicant would be willing to just do an informal voluntary survey with regard to this project. that would probably address the situation.
Yeah.
But why don't we have a condition where you work with staff in order to develop a reasonable approach towards doing an archaeological survey, which would be a win-win situation?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I mean, we're between oil wells here, 500 feet apart, parking lots on half of this stuff. So, but I mean, we could perfectly willing to work with your staff on an archaeological review out here. I mean, we're regulated by 30 agencies that come out and inspect our properties and make sure we're maintaining them to everybody's environmental standards. So.
Well, we're in Tulare County here, we're in a situation where we have a lot of properties like this that are open and they're not developed. And so when we're in a project like this, we have to at least tell the site history and what are some of the things that, might be indicators of what's out there and what's happened in the past. It doesn't have to be a definitive study, but it does need someone to kind of look at it, do a little bit of archival search. For instance, there's a wonderful resource we have in this county. It's the 1893 County Atlas, and anyone can get a hold of it. It's in the public record. If you look on that map, it'll tell you who owned the property, and if there were buildings on it, in a lot of cases, they'll indicate they were out there. That's a good way to determine, historic and cultural uses of the place. The archaeologists, what they do is they'll walk over the property and just look at the situation and look at the lithics and some of the things in terms of the proximity of the creek and that sort of thing. And they'll say, okay, there's nothing here, but when you drill, if you find something, let us know. And it's really that simple. We have this in the archival record, and then we know that situation, when it comes up in the future, it either yield sites in the vicinity or it will not. And it's so important for us in Tulare County to look after this now because we haven't chewed it all up yet. You go in other counties, there's no chance anymore. It's all gone. They've already been through everything. So this is why I'm adamant on insisting that at least we do a little bit of archival research, and maybe somebody just writes a little site history. What happened there? What went on? When did the oil first go in? What were some of the things that were there before when they bought the land? Who owned the land?
Our pupper owns most of it. The
yeah.
guy that actually works the property.
Who did they get it from? What was it used before that? It's just those kind of things are basic things that this process should be set up to find out. And that's kind of why I'm on the commission, and I'm hoping that I can convince staff to do a little bit of that.
Mr. Chairman, if I may suggest respectfully, add a condition to indicate that the applicant and staff will work together to try to do an informal archaeological review and provide that review prior to the commencement of operations.
We'd accept that. That's fine.
I'm okay with that.
Sounds
That's a good start in the right direction.
All right, good. Thank you, Brad. Well, it's recommendations up. And
okay, well, I can make the motion with that recommendation.
I second that motion.
you want to read that into the record since we're...
Yeah, well, we're going to have, okay, let's have Mr. Spada term what is going to be.
Respectfully, the applicant will meet and confer with staff to develop a review of the site for archaeological resources and provide a report prior to the commencement of oil operations.
Okay. And that should include a records check to see what sites are located in the area. Even though they didn't respond, you can still request a records check.
That is correct. We'll make that request.
Okay, so with that, then you...
Yeah, I'll make that motion that we accept the categorical exemption and...
So is this a one-time fix, or do you want something memorialized here?
Well, I mean, we need to begin to look at this on other projects.
Let's finish this one. Let's finish this one. And you need to want to conditionally approve the PSP 14-035?
Yes.
Okay. Second, please.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Gong,
Yes.
Millie,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Diaz,
Yes.
Miliano, Aguilar.
Yes.
Okay, John, did you want to have a discussion there, or?
No, I'm just curious, are we just fixing this one time, or are you?
Well, we're gonna have to talk about this, because we do need to have a
Why don't we
policy.
discuss it during commission comments later?
Pardon?
We'll discuss it in the commission comments.